Yeah, I have a great privilege introducing the next speaker, the wonderful and illustrious Hema Ghantiwala. She's the head of legal global telecoms market at BT and has worked for some very large IT companies such as NCR Corporation and Accenture. Hema has experience at working at board level as an executive in the private sector and as a non-executive director with the former NHS organisations and more recently with North West London Strategic Health Authority. She is certainly a true inspiration for Asian women and also aspiring young professionals for success at any large multinational company, and was the recipient of one of the 9 Jewels of Indian Culture Awards for Outstanding Achievement and Excellence as a female role model. Her talk is going to be on contributing to public life whilst working at a multinational company in the city. So, Hema, would you like to come down?
Hello everybody, and welcome. And for those of you who came to the BT event, I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see you next year. So Drew asked me to talk about working at a multinational company, and I did that talk sort of last year, and I said, no, actually I don't want to talk about that, I want to talk about something else. And he said, well, what? And I said, I want to talk about contributing to public life. And the reason that I wanted to do that was because I think that all of us have something to contribute to our community, and it's just a question of finding ways to do it. And a long time ago, over 10 years ago, somebody introduced me to the idea of being a non-executive director in the NHS. And I thought, well, what have I got that I can contribute to an NHS board? I said, I really don't think I've got the skills to be there. And this lady who was very inspirational, she was the head of, she was general counsel at Kodak, said to me, well, just go along and see what do you think, you know. And I went along to the open day and haven't looked back since. And one of the things that struck me was that actually all of us have skills that we don't actually value within ourselves. We just think, oh, you know, there's no value to it, and or it's useful in my day job, but how can I transfer this? So what I want to talk about is the reason why you might want to do it, and contributing to public life can be not just as a non-executive director. There is so many aspects of the public sector that you can contribute to. And it's a question of finding an area or an organisation that you're passionate about. I think you have to be passionate about what you want to contribute to. And the reason that I stayed in the NHS and did various appointments in the NHS was because I was passionate about the NHS. I mean, I'm truly passionate about it because I used to work for a couple of American organisations and worked with quite a few Americans. And they used to tell me about the health service in the US, and you know how wealthy professional people still worried about how they were going to pay their medical bills, and it made me realise that we took the NHS for granted. And at the time that I went into it, you know, my children were quite young, and I spent a lot of time in the A&E because my son used to play rugby, and I was constantly taking him to the A&E, and made me realise that one of the things I never worried about was how I was going to pay for my healthcare, you know, and so that it was important to me, and it's something that stays with you until we die. You know, that the healthcare provides for the NHS provides for us until we go to our graves. So it was something that interested me. Now, I'm not saying it's something that would interest everybody else, but you know, there is a way that you can contribute. So what are the bodies that you can contribute to? Well, if you go onto a website called, now I have to find what the website name is, but it's Public Appointments Cabinet Office.gov.uk. There, all the public appointments are advertised, and you can subscribe to it. And some of the areas that you can possibly work in is like the Forestry Commission, the Prison Office, the Cabinet Office, the Audit Office, what else is there? There's a whole load of, every public body has a aspect of it which requires governance. And usually they will want somebody who's either an independent member, a lay member, a non-executive director. The charities need trustees, the schools need governors, all of that. I mean, whatever you're passionate about, this is something that you could contribute to. So what makes you think that you can contribute? Well, whatever you do in your day job, I'm sure that there is something about your day job which has helped you to build skills in a particular area. So it could be communication skills, it could be marketing skills, it could be that you're just caring for, you're a carer. You look after one of your parents, your sister, somebody who's disabled, somebody who's mentally ill. So therefore you have an insight into something which perhaps everybody else doesn't have, And that, at a board level, is really important because you give the perspective of a patient or a carer. You may be the speaker for that patient because if it's a child or if it's somebody who's disabled, you may be the spokesperson for that patient. So you have an insight into something which maybe somebody else doesn't have. You may be a marketing manager in your day job. And, organizations, especially public organizations, don't know often how to market themselves, don't know, or don't have the budget for it, or can't contribute, in ways which private organizations can do, because of the finances. So there is things that you can find within yourself that you can contribute to. So, if you're unsure and if you're interested in becoming, well, I would say becoming a non-exec because that's what I've done, but it doesn't necessarily, like I said, doesn't have to be a non-executive appointment. So I'll kind of talk about what it means to contribute. Why would you want to do it? Besides being passionate about something, why else would you want to do it? And if you're a young person, you might think, I don't have the time, I don't really see how I can contribute. There is actually quite a lot of support for people, especially people from ethnic minorities and women, to get into public appointments because there's a shortage of them. A couple of years ago, I was an ambassador for the Cabinet Office trying to encourage people to apply for these appointments because people just didn't apply because they used to look at the job and think, well, similar to what I did, look at the job and think, oh, I can't do this, it's like, I don't think I could do it. But there is actually quite a lot of support and, talking to somebody who's done that kind of role may be a good start. I was just speaking to somebody yesterday who was interested in applying for an appointment. I mean, he's a white male actually, but it doesn't matter. I said I'd help him because there is a shortage of people with good skills, working in these organisations. In terms of time commitment, it depends on the organisation and the type of role that you've taken on. If you're a lay member, you may be just doing one day a month or something like that. That may be divided into a couple of hours over a month. If you're doing a non-exec role, it could be up to 2.5 days a month. Now, you might say to yourself, well, how would I find the time to do it? Some companies, like BT, we're very lucky. We get time off. We call it volunteering hours because you're contributing to the community, and you can book it against that. You may be doing a job where you have some flexibility in your time, where you still do your job, but you do it in the evening, or you make up the hours in the weekend or whatever. As a non-exec, I used to find that I could get to the meetings okay, but actually it was quite difficult to find the time to read the board papers because they used to arrive about 10 days before the board meeting and they were usually about that thick. And the way that I did it is I used to pull them apart and just read an agenda item a day on the train. I mean, that was my way of reading the board papers, and I actually got quite a lot out of it because I didn't try to do it all in one go. But you find a system of doing it and you'll find that there's a lot of support. So in terms of other benefits of it was that being a non-exec gave me a lot of training. I got a lot of training from the NHS organisations in how to operate at board level, the sort of issues that come at board level, how the strategy is worked out for an organisation that's providing a public service, you know. So it was things that, you know, I'd been an executive director at NCR, and I'd seen it from a private sector, and I could use those skills and you know, bring them to the NHS board, and vice versa. So, you know, they were very complementary. What else do I want to talk about? Talked about what you can offer, talked about the roles. So in terms of how does this fit into your spiritual life? And it's funny because I always thought, well, you know, giving back to the community, you're doing your seva and all the rest of it. So I thought, well, that kind of fits into my spiritual, you know, bag, or I'm not quite sure how to call it. But last week I was at a class. It wasn't a Bhagavad Gita class, it was a Vedanta class, and we did a prayer, a closing prayer, which kind of struck me. And usually the prayers are in Sanskrit, and I don't always understand them. I mean, you know, you can find out what they mean. But this prayer was in English, and it ended with saying that service to my country is service to God. And I thought, yeah, that's and that was something that I just wanted to leave you with, because I thought, you know, how else do we serve our country? You know, we're not going to be fighting on the front line. You're not going to be, but however way we can do it, I think you're fulfilling a spiritual commitment, and I just wanted to leave you with that. And if any of you are interested, you know, you can get my details from Dhruv. If you want to go through the process, I'll help you with the applications, doing your CV, filling in the, you know, even just preparing you for the interviews. And I've done that for several people who've been successful in getting roles. And then if you do try and you don't succeed, don't give up. Because a lot of it is just to do with practice. You know, the interviews are usually panel interviews, and if you're not used to doing panel interviews, they can be a bit frightening. So it's just a matter of practice, you know, and almost be prepared not to get the first few. I mean, God, yeah, I hope you do, and I hope you're lucky that you do on your first go. But just don't despair. It's just like, you know, when you're applying for any other jobs, you know, that you kind of you just send them off and almost forget about them until you get an interview, and then you think, oh, and then I think you can give the interview and I think just forget about it, because it may be that you're not successful. But what you would have benefited is getting an insight into the organisation, getting the experience of the interview, and actually just doing the forms, because usually the forms are just awful. And I don't want to put you off with that, because I think perseverance, you do one, and the next time you have to do it, you could almost just cut and paste. You know, but it's worthwhile doing the investment in the first one. So there's lots of things that, you know, I can go on about, and you can see I'm really quite passionate about it. I'm not doing a non-exec role at the moment. I decided to take a break for a while because I've been doing it for over 10 years, and I just wanted to kind of reevaluate where else I could contribute instead of just going back to the NHS. You know, one of the things that I was looking at was, for example, the prison service, because I thought, you know what, I think people who are in prison are just forgotten about by the public. I think it's something we don't see, we don't have a lot of visibility to, and I think that even for whatever reason they're there, they still need a voice, you know, and they still need to be heard. So there's one of the areas that I was looking at, and not something that I ever thought, because I don't know anybody who's in prison, I don't think. But I just thought that might be something that I might be interested in, since it's one of the areas that I'm looking at. But you know, I would encourage you to go onto the website and have a look, and you will be just amazed with the variety of things that you can do. Some of it is paid, you know, they pay a day rate, or they pay an appointment fee, or I'm not sure what they call it, because they don't call it a salary. And some of it is just voluntary. And if you haven't got experience, the best way to get in is actually to just volunteer. You know, because if you volunteer, then you get the experience, and then the next time you apply for an ed role or a lay member role, then you can actually say, well, actually, you know, I've been volunteering to do X, Y, Z, similar to what we do when we're trying to get experience to find a new job. You know, youngsters, I always say, you know, volunteer, go and do work experience for free. And it's something similar. I would say do that, you know. So if you are interested and you want to come and chat to me afterwards, feel free. If you want my details, Dhruv will be happy to give you my details. And well, thank you for listening. And
Thank you so much, Hema Ben. That was really interesting. Personally, I actually enjoyed the bit that you were talking about volunteering because when I started at my this American firm, they encourage us to do some pro bono. So that's where you take some set hours out of your day, and you don't charge clients, but you take that time for charity work. And I remember I was in the middle of this really busy deal, and I looked pretty much like I was on drugs because I hadn't slept for most of the night. And I was like, oh no, I have to like go to, because what they have in place is this reading scheme, so you have to go to Bethnal Green every week and read to just children who don't really know how to read or who have parents who generally don't read to them or don't get the time. And I had the cutest little girl, but at the beginning it was really, really difficult because I had loads of emails coming through, I was really busy, and I had to sit there and read, "The cat went under the mat," and it was really tiring and really difficult, and I had to do that, and she couldn't read. But actually there was such a sense of fulfillment, and honestly, if I compare the sense of fulfillment after the year of reading with her compared to drafting an agreement, there's definitely no comparison. So I would definitely echo what you say, service to the community is definitely key. So with that, I will hand over to Janvi.